Module 4. Hi, this is Joe Cerrone and this is CAD 116, your online AutoCAD course. And I'm going to take a look at Module 4 here. Module 4 is going to cover a number of objectives with modify commands, but I'm going to make this video geared towards the exercises. And so if we look here on the right hand side, we have an exercise here, Chapter 4 PDF. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and what we're going to do is go through this project in a step-by-step manner. And so if we take a look at it, what we're going to do is we're going to use the units command, limits, and layers. We're going to use some draw commands, line, rectangle, polygon, and circle. And we're also going to use object snap modes of intersection, tangent, 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 radius, and perpendicular, as well as some more modify commands, trim, offset, break, mirror, and erase. And we'll start this by setting up the drawing border. And so we'll invoke a new drawing from the file menu, step 1. And what I'm going to do is, what I recommend you do is you print out the page, or you make it smaller into the side. And so let's see if we can do that. Kind of make this smaller here, and I'll go to my AutoCAD here. I've already completed it, so I'm going to bring that and bring it back a little bit here. And so here we'll say File, New, and we're going to use this ACAD template. And I'll squish this over here a little bit to about there. And as you can see, my drawing interface is up now. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn off the grid. I don't think it really asks me to use the grid, but we'll take a look at the next step. And so we've completed step 1. We've started a new drawing. And now we'll go into step 2, which is to use the acad.dwt, which we've also completed. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up the units. And so you'll notice that I have my toolbar on here across the top, like I've talked about in the other exercises. And in order to see that, I've got to expand this a little bit. And to turn on my toolbars, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this downward arrow, and I'm going to enable the menu bar. And so here's what it looks like if I disable it, and here's what it looks like when it's enabled. Show menu bar. And I like that because I can get all the commands from a pull-down menu environment. The other thing that I want you to do is over here, if you have the icons or the glyphs, is to right click on that and disable use icons. And so it works better this way where I can actually see the commands. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the units command, and so I'll say format units. I'll set it up for decimal precision, and I'll say OK. Next thing I will do is to set up the drawing limits. And so if I look at this is continued under step 2, it says choose drawing limits, and so we'll say format drawing limits, and the drawing limits are for the lower left hand corner 0, 0, enter, and for the upper right they're going to be 18, 12, enter. Now that I have the drawing limits set up, I will do a zoom all, and so I can say view, zoom, all. And what that'll do is it'll reorientate the display to encompass my limits. And then I'm going to create 3 layers, step number 3. And so if I look at step number 3, it says invoke the layer command and create these 3 layers. So I'll come back over here and I'm going to say layer, L-A-Y-E-R, enter. And here's my layer dialog box. When I start off with my layers, it starts off with a default layer of 0. And what I will do is create a layer called border, which will have a color red and line type continuous. And so I'll come back here, I'll say new, and the layer name will be border, and the color will be red. So I'll click on that little swatch, and then I will set the line type as continuous, which it is. I'll say new again, And my next layer name will be center, C-E-N-T-E-R-L-I-N-E, and the color for that will be green, so I'll click on that. And I'm going to make it a dark green, and I'll say OK. And the line type on that needs to be a line type of center. And so what I'll do here is I'll come back out here and I'll click on the word continuous. Now if you can't quite see it, if you double click on this little spot there, it'll open it up. And so I'll click on this continuous line type, and then I will load a centerline line type. So I'll scroll through this until I see center, click on that, say OK, click on it again, say OK. Now I have a centerline line type set up for centerline. And I'll have one more layer called object, and I'll make that layer blue. And I'm going to check the line type for that, and it took the last line type, so I need to reset that back to continuous. And I'm going to add a line weight so that we can see this one a little better. So I'm going to add one more thing that's not in the directions and put a 0.5 millimeter line weight on that. And then we can see we have our layers created. And what it wants me to do is make the border layer current. So I can either double click on that or click this green arrow, and then I can close this layer dialog box. And I will then go into the drafting settings, and I can set a grid and a snap to 0.5. And so what it has me do is say format drafting settings, tools, drafting settings, and I can set up a snap and grid of both 0.5, and I'll OK that. I particularly don't like the grid, so I'm going to turn off the grid for this because it kind of hampers our view. I'll scroll that back and just turn off the grid, but we do have our snap enabled. The next step will be to create a rectangle at 0.5, 0.5, and so I'll get the rectangle command here. First coordinate is going to be 0.5, 0.5, enter, and then it's got this rubber band effect, and the next corner will be at 17, 11, and it's going to be 17 units to the right and 11 units up. And so when you have that add symbol, it means draw it from where it is 17 units over and 11 units up. And so that's our border. Next thing we're going to do is step number 6. We're going to use this centerline layer, and we're going to use this coordinate input method. And so we'll go over here to our layer. If you don't have your layer, let's say you accidentally got rid of it, you can type LA for layer, and you'll bring that back. We'll click on centerline. If I double click it, I get the green check mark, and that layer is now current. And then I'll make this smaller again, and I will then invoke the line command, and I'll look at the coordinates that they want me to use. First point is going to be 4, 8, and it's just like we were working this on a graph paper. These numbers are made by the author, so he's kind of got this worked out, and he's taking us through it step by step. The next line will be at 8.5, so we'll say at 8.5, and that's the length of that line, angle 0, and that'll draw a line horizontal for us. I'll hit enter to terminate the line command, and then I'll hit enter again to repeat the line command, and the next point will be 7.5, 0.5. And so we'll say first point 7, 5.5. I misspoke a little bit. And then the length of that will be 5, angle 90. And so we say at 5, angle 90. Enter. And that's my next line. And so that's our step 6. And there's still a few more parts to step 6. And so we're going to draw another line. I'll come back here to my AutoCAD. If I hit enter or right mouse click, I'll repeat the line command. And the next point is going to be 7, 8. Enter. And it's going to be at 3.5, angle 225. Enter. enter to terminate that line command. And then one more time, we can either right click or we can hit the enter key. This next line is going to be from 7,8 at 6.5, angle 315. So now we have these lines created, and from a standpoint of the coordinates, where are the numbers? Okay, if I came over here and wanted to just put numbers on here, single line text, I'll say, okay, here's we'll say 0.5 height, rotation angle 0. This would be 0 or 360, and then this point right here would be 90 degrees. This point right here would be 180 degrees. And then this point right down here would be 270 degrees. So when we start to talk about these coordinate entries, when they say, 3.5 at an angle 225 degrees, that means this line is 3.5 inches long, and the angular measurement here is 225 degrees. Okay, let's work on the next step then. We're going to use the offset command, and I'm just going to erase these little helpful coordinate entries, or degree entries there. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the offset command to create some more construction lines. And so if we look at step number 7, it says use the offset command to create additional center lines. And I've already gone through and done this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut to the offset commands. And so we'll offset a distance of 4 inches, this line right here, to the right side. And so we'll go to the offset command, which is right here. We'll specify the distance, which is 4, enter, and then we'll click on this line, and then we'll click to the right, and we'll create a line offset a distance of 4 inches. We'll then select the offset command again, and we will then offset a distance of 3. And what we'll do is we'll select this line here, and we'll select this side. Then we'll hit the offset command again, and we'll offset a distance of 2, and it will be this line that we just created to this side, and then this line to this side. So now that we've created this construction, we'll erase a couple of lines, and so we no longer need this line here, and we no longer need this line here, and we no longer need this one. And so we'll come into erase, and we'll get rid of this one and this one, and hit enter. That was step 8. Erase lines 3 and 4. And so here's what we have, and it looks good. Next thing we'll do, step 9, is that we're gonna go to select the object layer, and so I can either type LA for layer, or I can click on my layer, select the object, double click on that, or just hit the green check mark, and then I'm just going to close it this time. And what we will do is on this object layer, we're going to draw some circles. And so we're going to say circle, and it wants to know the coordinate of that, which is 7,8, enter, and the radius of that is going to be 2. And then we're going to repeat the circle command. I'm going to right click, say repeat circle, and the next coordinate is going to be 11,8, enter, and the radius of that is going to be 1. So we've got a couple of our circles, and it says to use the center point, it says to use the object snap tool and to create another circle with the same radius as the last one. And so what we'll do is we will then come over here, we'll create this circle right here. So we'll say circle, and I'm not getting my intersection here, and so let me check my object snap. If I right click on it, and I'm going to make sure intersection is down, and I'm going to say circle, and there. Now I've acquired the intersection, and then the radius for that, the default is 1. It remembers my last radius, or I can just type 1 again, and now I've completed these next steps. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a line in step number 10, tangent from here to here. And so let's come back over to our PDF. It's almost easier to look at the pictures than to read the directions, and so I will follow the directions here, but I'll try to make it a little bit simpler than reading through all this diagnostics points here. And so what I'll do is I'll come in here with the line command, and the line is going to be from a tangent point. And so if I hover over here and I don't get my object snap, then what I can do is I can hold the shift key and click the right mouse button and select tangent. And so I want a line, do that again, tangent from here to, and I'm just going to say tangent to this other point. It may be the intersection, but they should be the same points. Now hit enter. And then actually, let's say here, kind of come back here. Yes, that's correct. And then what it wants me to do is to mirror these. Now we could certainly just do another line tangent, tangent, but they want to teach us some new commands. And so we'll come in here and we'll say mirror. I'll select the line to mirror. I'll hit enter. And then I will select the center of this circle and the center of this circle as my axis of being mirrored, and I will hit enter when it asks me no, don't erase the source object. And so there I have that construction then created. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a line from this intersection perpendicular. And so we're going to say line, and we're going to come over here and see if I can get my intersection. Now my snap is fighting me here, and so I'm going to turn off my snap, and I'm going to say line from this intersection, and as I bring it here, it knows where to go, but just to make sure it's perpendicular, I'm going to hold shift and the right mouse key, and I'm going to say perpendicular to the center line here, and I'll get the perpendicular symbol, and I will click. Then I'm going to hit escape to clear out that command. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some more circles, and I'm going to draw the circles in step number 13 here. And so if I come down here to 13, what it has me do is to draw this big circle and then this other circle here, and it's going to use tangent, tangent, radius. And so this big circle is a radius of 6, and this small one is a radius of 1.25. So I'll come back to my AutoCAD here, and I'm going to get the circle tangent, tangent, radius command, and I'm going to select it tangent to this circle and tangent to this circle, and the radius is going to be 6. And then I'm going to go and do that command again. I'm going to say circle tangent to this line, tangent to this line, in a radius of 1.25. And so that's how we create this construction here in step 13. In step 14, we're going to use this trim command, and what we're going to do is we're going to trim it from this to this. And so trim is not too difficult if you understand how it works. We'll take the trim command and we'll select trim, and what it asks for is select the cutting edge or all edges by hitting enter, and we're going to hit enter to select all edges. What that does is make all the lines cutting lines. And so we click on the stuff we want to get rid of. I want to get rid of this, I want to get rid of this, I want to get rid of this, and if I look over here, I want to kind of clean up this circle too. Now it will not trim something to a 0 length, so if you have a little piece left over, you'll have to use erase. And so we've trimmed it now according to the instructions to look like this, and that's fine. If we zoom in on it, we can see a little bit more. Let's go to the next step. And what we're going to do here is we're going to continue to use trim, and we're going to trim it and clean it up a little bit more so that it looks like this. We'll come back to our trim command. Again, we can hit enter to select everything as a cutting edge. Trim, enter, everything is a cutting edge, and then we'll remove this part, and we'll remove this part, You'll notice there's a little bit left in here. You kind of have to zoom in and pan by pushing the wheel on the mouse and clicking the wheel on the mouse. And then I'll trim this, 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 this. And I am going to trim this back here too. And I will trim this out. And this. And that. So now we've trimmed it. I'm going to hit the line weight button so we can kind of see it a little darker. As I recall, I created a line weight for this in the layer dialog box of 0.5. And so now you can see it a little darker if I turn on this LWT button. Okay, let's go through and we'll make these circles. And so these circles then are a diameter or a radius. Let's take a look here. This big circle is a radius of 1.5 and these smaller circles here are 0.5. And so we'll go back and we'll select circle, center radius, and we'll select the intersection right here or the center, and then we will type in 1.5 for the radius, and then I'll right click, repeat circle, and I'm going to do a circle right here, and the radius on that is going to be 0.5. And then I'll come back, repeat circle. I want this intersection, and the radius is 0.5. I can just hit enter. It remembers the last radius. Repeat circle right here. Again, it remembers the last radius, or if I want, 0.5. Alright, so we've completed this step number 17 now. And we're going to go through and we're going to create these lines here, and then we will trim this so that we can then create a slot for that. And so, okay, have a good one. So then we'll come back here. My coworker. So we'll say line command, and we're going to do a line from, let's see if I get it, line from this intersection to this intersection. Right click, enter. And I can say right click, repeat line, and I'll do another line from here to here. Alright, take a look at it. Looks good. Depending on the graphics cards, you may have to do a view regen to kind of clean it up. And then we're going to go back in here once we've drawn these lines, and we're going to trim so that it's a slot. So we'll say trim, enter, and we'll click on the parts to remove. Trim, enter, remove this, remove this, remove this, and remove this. Alright, everything's cleaning up really well. Last thing it has me do is use the break command, but a better command is just to use a grip. And so if I click on this line with a grip, I can then click on this blue square and pull it back to about there, and then hit escape. Escape will turn off the grips. Alright, so this is this exercise here, and what we'll do is we'll save it as project 4. I'll say file, save as, and I like it if you use your initials, so I'll say JC-PROJ4, and you can put that on your desktop if you like. I'll say save, and then I'll have you submit that to the Dropbox. Okay, that's the exercise 4.